and I will send it to you as additional, backup system, so to speak,
Sounds good.
to add to your notes. So I know there's a lot of notes I sent you, and the two
Yeah.
documents. Yeah.
Yeah, I was in class and I was like, oh my God. So I just started, every time you sent it, I just saved it to my desktop and I did print out the last, oh, it blocks out my thing when I do that. I printed out the last one with the red writing on it and stuff. Yeah.
Okay, very good. So let's jump right into it. So I will send this recording to you,
Mhm.
and we only will be covering today the two of the main documents. They are the most. You'll spend more time on those.
Okay.
The others are just you're going to look at the balances, but I will send you notes on those also. That should be suffice for your presentation.
Okay.
All right, so we are recording. Okay, let me share screen. Share screen. Not this one. This. Okay, this one. Okay, so you can see that.
Yes.
Very good. So I'll kind of read this just for time because we are, running out of time basically. So what I suggest at the beginning here is to have both my notes separately from your Zoom computer. In the past, the previous secretary treasurer had two computers set up, one with the notes in which they're actually using, and
Mhm.
one with the Zoom computer. And by the way, on the Zoom, I would be sharing screen with the documents to help you out, so that would not take away from your presentation. How does that sound? Sounds good?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah. And since I'm very familiar with the documents, also, I'll be able to follow on.
Okay.
And you can basically read these notes. Once you understand what's going on, if and by the way, if you have any questions, email them to me. I mean, not be able to take unless it's a very simple matter today. Um, Please feel free. You see, I'm very responsive. I would respond right away. And I'm also have to add, I'm very happy that you're very responsive also. Very unusual, I should say. Hope it continues for the rest of the year.
It will.
Okay,
I'm
thank you.
kind of overkill with things, but
Thank you. Yeah, that's very nice. I really like that. Thank you. So, you could either print them out like you did one of the documents you said, and use that as your presentation, and just have the computer Zoom, so that you know what's going on with the rest of the presenters.
okay.
So, you see for the next line, your paragraph, we have all the names for your
Mhm.
finance committee. You'll be doing the roll call, and you'll be using these names, right?
Right.
So the first agenda item is call to order. You will just note the time very briefly. I call this finance committee meeting on such and such a date, and you note the time. And so now formally the meeting will start the recording. The meeting will be on. Then you immediately go to the roll call, and you have done that, I'm sure, countless of times. Very easy. You just call these names, and they will say present. They have to say something, or since we're recording, they could raise their hands for the purposes of the minutes. Um, I'm not sure. The only person who haven't responded to that email I sent yesterday was Mary Foley. And so, but technically, by the bylaws, we only need one consultant to be present. And Dr. Taylor, Cheryl Taylor, said she would be there. So we should be good. But that's a moving thing. Let's see what happens. So acceptance of minutes, I had indicated this to you some time ago. You'll be accepting the minutes, and the way in which I kind of explained this in the past is that you kind of you just have to accept it
Makes
because you
sense.
weren't there, you're not
Right.
part and parcel of that discussion, so
And when
you
you
just have to act.
participate, you approve. Okay.
Yes. So, and I gave you some suggested language also, but let me read the notes. Note that you accept the past finance committee board minutes since you did not participate. You were not present when you participate. When you are participating, for example, in future meetings, right? The minutes for those you will
Mhm.
be not accepting. You'll what's the next word? You'll be approving. Okay, but
Mhm,
let's not get confused. So those are the two words that you would need,
mhm.
and it's very easy to confuse them. I just got confused myself just now. So there you go. Um, and also note that we will have formal NSNA motion forms that will be filled out for these motions. Okay, and Kenya
Mhm.
would be doing the work of taking the notes and doing and sort of signing it, so on and so forth. And so this is a suggested script that I wrote to accept the minutes. You have received the minutes of the March 26, 21 Finance Committee meeting in the Dropbox. Do you have any questions or clarification on these? Typically, almost all the time, there are none. Um, I put there, I hope. So you will now ask the rest of the board. Remember, there are just three of you, so you'll ask the two of them. Um, uh,
May I have a motion to accept?
There you go. You have a motion to accept the minutes of March 26, 2021 Finance Committee meeting.
Okay.
So either Kyle or Taylor would present the motion, and they could simply say so moved, right? Meaning that
Right.
they moved to accept the minutes.
Mhm.
And then but you need a second, and then you will say, do I have a second? And obviously the other person, the third of the triad, would say, I second the motion. Okay.
Okay.
Then you say, is there any further discussion on this matter? And typically there is none. Seeing none, you say, now we vote on the motion. All those who approve say aye. All those who deny the motion do not approve say nay. And typically the motion is approved, right? So you will say that. You will say the motion is approved.
All right.
I think this is helpful. I
Yeah.
wrote it out. So, yeah.
Yeah, I'll separate it into line fragments for
Absolutely. In
myself.
fact, that was one of my suggestions, that you could have a document that says motion and
Yeah, so I'm
list
writing
it.
it all down and
There
then
you go.
I'll go ahead and separate it for
Perfect.
myself
Perfect.
later.
So exactly. So this is just like a preliminary discussion,
Mhm.
In fact, I thought you would do that and have it itemized, so you will flow very clearly and smoothly. So then we go to agenda item number 4, the financial report.
Mhm.
I will go over the notes on that. Okay.
Yep.
Review the operating profit and loss statement. That's the second document I send you. We will go over that. The capital budget, I will in the future, I will send you notes on that. You will also see the documents on the Dropbox, which we'll be sending shortly. We'll review the 4.4 is review of reserve accounts. This one, you just basically repeat the ending balance as of April 30th. Reviewing the bank balance is a similar idea. This is just for the minutes and for us to present honestly to the board. This is what we have in the bank, right? It's for full
Okay.
disclosure, basically. So you'll just repeat the balances for those. That's why I didn't spend much time including those, because those are basic, very cursory discussion. You just read it. And of course, there will be questions on those. I will be there. Dr. Mancino will be there to answer those. Something very important to remember, we'll be sending you line item descriptions for the operating budget. It's a separate, I think I probably sent that to you. I'm not sure. If not,
The one with all the arrows?
no, this is just a document that describes each line item of the March 31st P&L.
Yeah, yeah, it has a bunch of arrows to
Oh,
show
it does?
what they are.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
there you go. Okay. And it basically explains very shortly, brief description of everything there. And it's very useful sometimes at a meeting. Even me and Diane, sometimes we forget we know exactly what it is, but it's better to have the language from that document
Mm-hmm.
to use, right? And there's also the investment policy statement. This is the job of the board, by the way, finance committee, then the full board. If they need to make any changes, which is few and far between, you don't want to make ad hoc changes to your investment policy. We have a
Mm-hmm.
very good investment manager for the longest while, and you will get to meet her on the 2nd of June, and she will describe the entire economy, and then it's a real wonderful experience to see someone that has that background, and you could incorporate that in your regular life also. Almost like a newscast. She's very good. So you will have the investment policy statement, an official document that guides that investment manager on how to perform, where or where not to place our investment, and so on. It gives
Mhm.
her a constraint and the asset mix. Asset mix is how much bonds, how much cash you should have, how much
Yep.
equity you should invest in, and so on and so forth. Right? We'll
Yep.
see that. So I also included on the next page, besides the acceptance, if new business will be coming up at that meeting, now you'll be not accepting, you'll be, what's the other
Approving.
word over there? You'll be approving it
Yeah.
because now you are part and parcel of that discussion, right? So now you guys are discussing and accept. So that's now, for any other motion that comes up, do I have a motion to approve since you are now already actively making the decision? The body of the motion to be presented to the full board. All these motions will be presented to the full board. The finance committee is discussing these things, but it has to be approved and discussed at the full board, and you'll be doing that. If there are new motions that comes up, typically there are no new business or new things to discuss. One of the other board members would say so moved, or they would repeat the entire motion since they are moving that motion. Then again, you say, "Do I have a second?" The other person say, "I second the motion." Then you say, "Is there any further discussion?" And so on and so forth.
Mhm.
Right? It's
Right.
sort of making sense now, right?
Yeah.
And then you take that vote. All right.
Yep.
So yeah, as questions come up on these things and moving forward to the next documents, jot them down. I know I'm going a little bit fast. Um, Stop me and or make notes for you for to email me your questions later.
Yep. I'm good.
So let's move now to what did I do? Okay, how do I get back the screen? Oh, so stop share. Oh, okay. Confused there for a moment. Zoom is still relatively new to me, so all right. So now this is the very first. This is agenda item 4.1 for your meeting. Okay.
Mhm.
This basically is the end result of our audit. We have an internal audit every year.
Mhm.
Um, they're independent auditors. They come in and they audit our books. They look at everything, and they feel the ones that come to do the field work, meaning come to the office. But sometimes last year they did it via Zoom. They are brand new ones, so they have new pair of eyes looking and scrutinizing and examining our books, right? And that's a good safeguard that we have in terms of our fiduciary responsibility and cash control measures. Also,
Mhm.
the auditors present to us these financial statements, which is actually the property of management of us. But they would go through the books and would agree or not to agree with the numbers that we give them. Right.
Okay.
So these are suggested script that you could use to give sort of a background to the rest of the board. Kyle, of course, passed through this, but you're going to assume that the full board and nobody knows what's going on, and you're just giving them sort of a little background on the audit. So my comment is that NSN is a 501c3 nonprofit association, and we have a fiscal year January 1st to December 31st. And every year, NSNA gets an internal audit from its independent auditors, and the name of the auditor, Mazars USA LLP. They're a pretty big international firm, by the way, but
Mm.
they have a big department that focuses on nonprofits. And this agenda item 4.1 is a review of the result of the 2020 fiscal year audit that was done. It was actually physically done in February 2021 because you have to wait for the year end, right? For all
Right.
statements and everything to be completed. So it's actually done physically in February 2021. And they produce all the financial statement that pertains to 2020, that previous year. They try to do it as early in the year as possible.
Mhm.
And these financial statements that are included in this document are a result of that audit, and pretty rigorous. They go through everything. They take statistical samples and they ask for everything, especially where it concerns cash and things, monies that's supposed to come in that we are claiming that are receivables. And also they spend a lot of time on our membership dues and so on and so forth. We'll go over that as we move forward. So in many of the reports, the financial statement shows comparative results, right? So the good
Mhm.
thing is that you can look at comparative results of both 2019 and 2020, and you would suspect now that there will be a huge, big gap. Typically, it really jives, it matches year to year, not that much changes. But because 2020 is what we call a COVID year, right?
Yeah.
There was a big comparative difference was significant. So let's turn to page 3 of the PDF. So you might be confused about page 3 of the PDF because it doesn't match the page number on the actual document, right? So I'm just pointing that out. But
Okay.
yeah, so page 3 of the actual PDF file, um, this this is the page 3. Um, Now, before you get confused, now I just copy and paste each page just for the purposes of the notes. When you see the actual independent auditor's report, you will see all the various pages, right? So and you will get that, by the way, you will get that with the Dropbox and uh, the full documents without your notes. Um, uh, to see you when you know to give you that perspective to see it. But
Mhm.
I've just pulled the very important pages. So don't be confused. I said page 3,
Oh,
and now I'm just going by page 2 over here. But this is just for your notes. This is just your notes page. Okay,
okay.
make sense?
Yes.
So, and this page is called the Independent Auditor's Report. You will read that, I suggest. This report is called a clean or unmodified report. That's the best report an auditor could give the entire industry of auditors in America. All right. A
Mhm.
clean or unmodified, meaning they did not find anything suspicious. They didn't have to go back and recheck the previous year and so on and so forth. This is the most sought after opinion. So this is called a clean or unmodified auditor's report, and you can identify the very last paragraph in which I just summarized in my notes here. The last paragraph, which is the opinion paragraph, states that NSNA 2020 financial statements presents fairly in all material respects the financial position of NSNA, and that it is in conformity with generally accepted accounting principles. And I should add of United States of America, but it's kind of understood, right?
Mhm.
And I'll move to the next page. This next page is a statement of financial position. As I mentioned, I will just go over my notes, but you see all my arrows over there, I'm showing you where these numbers are coming from. This is a statement of financial position. You're probably familiar with the phrase balance sheet, right? So
Balance sheet. Yeah.
yeah, so this now for nonprofit they call it the statement of financial position because they just want to be prim and proper about it. I'm joking.
Okay. Yeah.
They want to be different, so they're called. But basically, it's a balance sheet. And so this report determines NSNA financial net worth. This is like telling you, or like it could be your family, your assets, how much assets you have, how much liability you have at the particular moment in time. This is not a period. This is just as of December 31st, right? At that time, what is your net worth? You can see
Right.
it changes every month. It could change, right? But as of that
Right.
particular, yeah, it's a pure statement. So at December 31st, and it presents comparative results for the previous year. But I'm just going to go over, and you could just go over the current one, which is 2020, the year under audit. Cash and cash equivalents is 229,792. NSNA, my arrow didn't point correctly there. I think, but you get the idea. Investment is 2.6 million. You don't need to read the whole figure unless you want to, right? If it's
So
better
are
for you.
these the exact figures that I'll be sharing in that meeting?
Yes, these are the exact figures. They just wouldn't
Okay.
have this notes. It will just have this page, right? The left-hand side there,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
You know what? I will send you, you think it's better for me to send you the original document so you'll have a better grasp of it?
No, no, no. I didn't know if this was like an example, like,
No,
or
no,
if
no, no.
the actual
Oh,
what
very
we're
good
doing. Okay.
question. That's one of the most important. Let me clarify that right away. These are the exact figures. The
Okay.
page on this, that you see with that block, that's the exact page that you will see, right? I
Okay. And
just,
then
yeah, I
the
just
way
cut
that
and
you have
paste.
it down right here is the order that I should go in to.
Yes, yeah,
Oh, okay. That's
yeah,
awesome. Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
It makes your life simple. The previous,
Yeah.
make it very simple that you just go over this, just read this. Once you understand it, so it's not like we are giving you scripted thing. Once you understand what's going on, ask me questions. If not, and this, remember the good news about this that you can feel comfortable. It was audited by CPAs of the highest, order, and these are the numbers that they gave us, and these are the exact numbers. Yes, so just to repeat, that you will be sharing, and you can use this whatever I'm sharing on this document, and the next document would be the exact numbers and documents that the rest of the community would be seeing, except for the notes and my crazy arrows over there.
Yeah. No, they're great. It's
Yeah, yeah.
awesome.
So you can, yeah. In fact, previous secretary treasurers actually use this for their presentation. That's what I was telling you in the beginning. Have a copy of this, and kind of ignore. And I'll be moving the documents as you speak. You understand? Because on the Zoom, I'll be sharing that, so they will be seeing what you're talking about. So it will jive nicely. It will move together nicely. NSNA investment account, I put the numbers over there. I'm not going to read that whole thing, but you get the idea.
Right.
The investment account remains healthy at 2.6. I put 2.6, but basically it's 2,628,000 and 10. You see that, right? That's the second figure.
Right. So is it like am I gonna read this entire thing, or am I just doing the ones that are specific? So would I just be doing the investment account, you know, like, am I saying all of that remains healthy, blah, blah, blah? Like, is this exactly what I should say?
It's up to you, but you could just read the numbers. It's my
Okay,
notes to you, and
gotcha.
if you think it's valuable, it will give them context. The rest of the board
Right.
will
No,
give them
yeah.
context. Feel free to use it. I keep saying pastors away. You don't have to go with what they do. And if you feel this is giving them more context, you can read my notes, because it's I have the experience behind this also, and I try to make it as simple as possible within the context of the numbers, right? So
Okay.
yes, my suggestion is yes, go over my suggested notes. If somebody from the board, or the rest of the finance committee has questions on each of these, I will have the detailed on answers, right?
Okay.
So,
Yep.
because of time constraints, you cannot go through all these numbers. There are hundreds of numbers. It's not practical, right? So,
Right.
what I did, and for the next document also, it's the same thing applies. Um, I just chose the significant numbers. For example, payroll is significant, rent and expenses is significant. This is another document, but you get the idea. I'm picking significant numbers. For example, you can see now the next number I call attention to is the total assets. That is important, right? The total
Right.
assets is 3,322,20. Then I went to the liability section. So you see this document is separated into assets at the top, listing all the assets. And at the
Right.
bottom is listing all the liabilities that are the monies that are owed on those assets, right?
Right.
So,
Okay.
so your total net worth, as you would suspect, is
Right.
all your assets, all your bank accounts. For example, look at your personal life. Then, if you have a mortgage, so your net worth is basically all your asset less your mortgage and what you owe your car loans and stuff like that.
Right.
It's the same concept here.
Okay.
So, liability is one of the uh, most we call technical thing to realize is the idea of membership dues. And you see that if you look under liabilities, you see membership dues, the fourth or fifth figure there, 851,014.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's a liability. What is that? Why is that a liability? And if you think of it for a moment, the way in which generally accepted accounting does this is, for example, a student would pay, let's say they pay 1 year dues and 2 year dues in June of this year. They pay it next month, right? For
Mhm.
1 year. Now, we can only recognize 6 months of that dues for 2021, right? They paid a whole year, meaning they paid from June to May of 2022, right?
Mhm.
Now, if you're recognizing dues from June to December, what happened to the one from January of the next year to May? That's lumped here as a liability. You get the idea? So although you pay cash for 1 year for a membership due. Let's assume one to make it simple, 1 year. Okay. Revenues would be membership dues that which will be reflected on a different statement, and the part that is not recognized as revenues, which is basically the following year from January to May, in my example, would be liability, would be membership dues, which is liable, meaning NSNA is owing those students for that year coming up. You understand? So that's the whole concept behind that. And I kind of explain it. Now, let's go back on the liabilities under my notes. So I'm saying here for that very first figure, I'm jumping back to the first figure. So sorry to get you back and forth here. All payables accrued were paid in January. Okay, all that, remember this statement is as of December 31st. Was paid in January, consists mainly of pension costs, November, December imprint costs, January invoices, and you will know what AJJ is pretty soon, an outstanding convention exhibit refund dues for 2020. The deferred rent is, you can ignore that, but that's a very technical term. It's basically a straight lining of rents that the accounting profession want you to do. So unless you really want to, understand that, you could safely um, ignore that. And the largest part of the liability are deferred membership dues, which I just went over, which is about $851,000, which are 1 and 2 year dues, which are monies received, right? We receive the cash, but membership and benefits extend beyond 2020 to 2021 and 2022, right? With my little explanation, you get an idea what's happening, right? So
Right.
those that they paid for the following year, it's lumped here as liabilities, right?
Mhm.
So net asset without donor restrictions um, is 1,860,496, right? That's the net asset without donor restrictions. You see that long name there? Remember I mentioned balance sheet is basically about your net worth. Now that's long phrase here is basically net worth of NSNA, right? Now they're labeling it net assets without
Right.
donor restrictions, right? So basically, if you take that 3,322 from the total assets at the top, and you subtract the total liabilities, you can see the total liabilities here is 1,461,724.
Right.
See
And
that?
that's
If you subtract those two,
128.
yes, you get 1,860,496, which is the net worth.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so let's move to the next page. I think we will probably need two Zoom meetings for this. Anyway, the next page is statement of activities. This is similar to the P&L, the profit and loss statement, income statement, right? You've heard of income statement, which
Mhm.
is now a period statement. It's from January to December. All the monies that revenue that you receive for that entire year, and all the expenses that you paid for that entire year, right? This is what this document is basically telling you: statement of activities, also known as income statement for the year ended December 31st, 2020, and it reflects what I just said. Now, the biggest part of our revenue base, and you should know, is our membership dues, right? And that has been going down, especially precipitously last year. And we would be discussing that. You will hear much more about that throughout different aspects of our meetings coming up, right? So membership dues in last year was 1,357,000. 393. And I think it's approximately 50% of all of NSNA's revenue. So it's very important. It has dropped about 10,000 last year because of COVID-related issue. We addressed that in another section of this document. Membership now is around 52,000 at the end of December. And this is reflected, as you can see, in dues dropping around 40,000 from 2019. If you look at those two top figures, the comparative, you can see, that revenue being dropped. I didn't highlight many of these. It's kind of, if anyone has any questions, it's kind of exhibit fees, advertising convention. What you can do is to maybe look at the line item explanation for these and email me. Feel free to email me if you have any questions on these. It's kind of obvious what's going on. Membership dues, we have advertising because we have a lot of magazines and so on, imprint magazine. Exhibit fees are those people that are advertising, that are exhibiting at our convention and mid-year. Convention and conference, those are all the revenues from convention and conference except membership, except exhibit fees. Then we have royalties, realized gains and losses, and so on.
Is it low? Is it significantly low because of COVID and we didn't do it in person this year? Is that why the
Yes.
price difference is there?
Yeah, absolutely. Because it was virtual. Yeah, we had to revamp our entire budget. Never happened before because the cancellation happened so late last year. We were supposed to go to Disney. And the tragedy is that we were slated to have the highest revenue. It was rocket because people love to go to Disney, and it was really, really going well until we had to drop everything, as you know.
Yeah.
But one of the big difference also is that line item that I realized on unrealized gains on investment. It dropped. Previous year was 340,000, and it dropped to 110. That really hit our revenue line. So you can see that's one of the biggest drop actually, and that's one of the big causes of us having a deficit. If you look at the bottom of that document, you will see a negative figure of 155,209. Right? That's our deficit for last year. And most of that is that drop in the realized and unrealized gains of investment. And of course, a lot of it also has to do with the virtual convention rather than a live convention. To be honest, we didn't come out that bad. You're hearing companies left and right were becoming insolvent and so on. So although we did, suffer a loss, we were able to come out on top. We were able to survive.
Yeah. Okay.
The others you can take a look at. I try to cover those. The very last figure is a familiar figure to you now. It's is that net asset without donor restrictions that you saw on the previous page. That's the ending value. The most important part of this document is the total revenues, which is 2,386,411. That's that top figure, midway, and then the total expenses. See it? Right?
Yeah.
And then the 2,541,622. If you subtract the expenses out of the revenues, you get a negative figure of 155. And as I mentioned, if the brokerage accounts were doing much better, we would have been, we had to withdraw monies to survive also. We had to withdraw $600,000. And for about 10, 15 years, we have never withdrawn money from our reserve account. But full disclosure, we had to do that. So I'll move on to the next statement. This one, if you look at this expense section, you'll see it broken up into publication, exhibit, expense, convention and conference, membership, governance, general administration. Now, they just give you a lump sum figure for these program expenses. We call them program expenses. Okay. Now this next statement here is called a statement of functional expenses, and it take those program expenses. If you can see now they are broken up into columns, right? Look at the top. You see publications, exhibit at the top of the convention, and so on and so forth. And then they broke them out into natural expenses. They call them exactly what make up these things. So that you add details to that statement, right? This gives much more detail and understanding to the reader of the statement of the expenses, basically, right? For
Mhm.
example, the very first line is salaries, and how salaries is for formula agreed upon by generally accepted accounting principles, and also the auditors, and formula based on actual how employees are working on each of these departments, so to speak. You allocate salaries on that. So salaries for publication, you see convention, conference, membership, governance, general administration. And the total of that is 970,930 for all employees. And this, I'm not going to go over this. You have any questions on this? Basically, it's giving you the details of those expenses broken out
Mhm.
into natural, for example, legal fees. You have commissions being paid, promotion, design, and printing. Obviously, that will have a lot to do with the publications. Most of that will be publication, um, and so on and so forth. Okay,
Uh,
so far.
Yeah. Um, are for the meeting, do I go over all of this in the meeting too, or is this just for me?
Um, like this a similar question that you had before, but for this particular page.
So like, you know how like we have
There's
separate.
hi.
Hi.
Oh, hi.
Thanks.
So like how we have on here, for instance, it's 4 separate pages of different things of the statements. Um, will I be in the meeting? Will I go through all of these in that meeting?
Yes, I
Okay,
suggest you do. For this
okay,
particular page, you can summarize it like I just said.
okay.
Right? This is just breaking up those program expenses into details, and these are the details,
Got
right?
it. Okay.
Broke up into
Yep.
salaries and so on and so forth. But yes, as I
It's very
mentioned,
straightforward. It's you broke it down so beautifully.
oh, thank you. Okay, I didn't know
I
how I was doing
honestly,
so far.
I can look at it and just know exactly what it is. You put arrows and everything. It's just so nicely done.
Yeah. So as I mentioned, this is why I send these two documents. You'll spend at least an hour on those two documents, because the other documents, as I mentioned, is just looking figures. Because these two documents are so important. This is the audit of last year, and the next document that we'll be discussing is the first quarter of this year, right?
Okay.
And it's sort of giving the finance committee and the board, when you be discussing it, an idea of how NSNA is fully what's the word, disclosure. We give our information out fully, uh, and the board will come to me later on. Full disclosure. So yes, do spend some time on these documents. You can even read my notes if that's easy for you, and you read it like it's your notes. Okay.
Yeah.
It-
And so uh will this all of this be for me to explain only for the finance committee, or is it for finance
Very
committee
good question.
and
But both when you do your
oh,
presentation for the board,
okay.
and the finance committee is typically sort of a dry run for you for the
Got
board,
it.
and you
Okay.
don't have for the full board. For example, you can be less um, you can be more
Like cliff notes.
summarize more. You can
Right.
summarize more. But to
Right.
me, now to go ahead and summarize, to me is more work. You already have all these notes here, so just go ahead and do it. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah.
But that's me. That's me. But if you just want to summarize to save time for the board, you can do that.
Mhm.
This particular statement here is just you broken up the program expenses into much more detail, and you can move on. Or If you
Okay.
feel you want to give them for the finance company much more context, you can actually read these, which I would. This one here, I gave you this is for you, okay? Because this is so complex, a statement of cash flows. Now you will get this recording, and all you need to say on this is this statement reconcile the surplus, the deficit that we have, and you can see that top figure, negative 155,209, which you're familiar with by now, right? That's the deficit last year.
Mhm.
And it reconciles that with the total cash that we actually earned, that we actually brought in to NSNA. So now we have this negative 155,209 and all these subtraction and addition, which is really a distraction. um, but the main figures I'll be talking about, the net cash used in operating activities, which you can see there about midway of the page, is a
Mhm.
negative 460 that's used, 460,476 used in operation. However, net cash provided by investment activities, the one that below that, 517,077, that's a positive figure. So when you add those two figures together, the positive 517 and the negative 416, you get that figure immediately at the bottom, 100,623, which is a positive cash figure that we actually receive. If you look at the
Right.
statement of activities, you'll see we have negative 155. But if you look at cash, we actually brought in 100,000 positive cash. So that's what this statement is basically telling you. And you could just reel off what I
Right.
just explain the statement and just
Yeah.
reel off these balances provided by
Yeah.
operations, provided by investment activities, right?
Right.
And the next sections here, um, how are you with time? You
Good.
have, you're
Yeah.
good? Okay. So now the rest of the statements, remember, I'm not covering the 2019 comparative statements, right? So when you see the actual document that the rest of the board and the finance committee would be seeing, I'm just calling this, as I mentioned before, the important aspects, right? So you go to notes of the financial statement. These are integral part of the finances. It adds color, basically. It adds detail to those hard and fast numbers that you saw, those wild one-liners. These
Right.
these add context, and someone who's really interested, like the leaders of a particular, like investors, for example, they're looking at a company. The first thing they do is to go to the notes to the financial statement, right, to see the details rather than going to those one-liners. So I
Right.
just identified notes number three. They're all numbered, right? The notes to the financial statement.
Mhm.
Number three is very important. You have to disclose the liquidity and availability, and you can see the figures here, and you can read this. And at your leisure, also just highlight total financial assets available within 1 year. You can see that's a very valuable figure. They take our cash that we have, our investment, and our accounts receivable, and they think these could be liquid assets in the future year, something that's important for management, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
Then then they broke out investments also. I'm not going to go into the details. In the balance sheet, you see just one line, investment, right, number. This is broken up into that line, and you see my arrow is showing that line over there,
Mhm.
right? But it breaks out the fixed asset, equities, and so on and so forth, right? It really gives it color. I identify property and equipment. You can read these notes if you wish, but you could point it out to them, and I'll be following you. Whatever you're reading or you're talking about, I will have this page open on the shared screen. Okay, the
Okay.
notes wouldn't be on the shared screen. You will just have that personally, right? I wouldn't read this since kind of running out of time. Um, what is important though, what this is what I would now. Okay, before I jump to that, if you have related party transactions, the board should know that we are related to the foundation of the NSNA and we share expenses. However, when we say we share expenses, the foundation pay us back. For example, their they're using part of our building, part of our the office space, and based on an allocation, they, for example, they pay us back on a timely basis. So this is a disclosure of that, right? And the paragraph says it all. We also have a retirement plan, which some in the past, some board member gasped. So, oh my God, that is so good. But we've had this for the longest while. 9% of our annual compensation goes to a 401k, right? So that's disclosed there. You can see it's a full disclosure. Now, this is a paragraph in which you could read in its entirety because it gives the entire last year uh, context of what NSNA went through. And the board should be aware of what we did, what we did not do. Okay.
Which
So
paragraph are you
the
talking about?
risk and uncertainties, number 10,
Okay, okay.
right? You can see it's a big, long paragraph there, and it's sort of a story of what happened last year. It's a story, but it's a small story. It's good to give them that context. And Stacy read this also at the last meeting because this is when we just got this financial statement.
Mhm.
So this is all I'm going to do for this one, okay? And you have all the notes. It's good.
Yeah, no, it's great.
Thanks. Thank you. Thank you.
I almost, it's so crazy. It's like you do all the work and I just read everything.
No, but believe me, it's a lot of work for you to go through these numbers. Yeah, I do. This is what I do. You see, it's kind of not easy, but
Your degree, so your degree is in finance?
I have managerial economics as my master's, and
Oh,
my bachelor's in accounting.
oh,
Accounting and
wow.
yeah, and I did lecture for about 5 or 6 years at college doing economics, lecturing economics. So
Oh,
that
wow.
was fun for a while from 2007 to 2011. Then I came back to NSNE. So
Gee.
that was
Okay, um, so based off of all this, my role in the meetings it's normal to be long because of all the content that I'm going
yes,
over. Okay,
yes,
all right.
yeah. You are that prime individual, not to, for lack of a better word. You're that individual, the treasurer, who for well that's your role there, the treasurer,
Right.
who is um, who is now explaining and giving context to the finances in an honest way. Um, well, you're using what we gave you, and that trust is there, like we were talking about last night. But feel free, ask them if you have any questions. You have any questions in terms of details, what's happening. But before we go, let me just quickly go over that the other document, and we don't need to spend much time because my notes are there. Okay.
Right.
I need to rest. I need to have a clear conscience when I leave today. So at least I want to make
No,
sure I
you're
cover.
fine. Yeah, you're fine.
All right. So let's share that. Yeah. Okay. So there you go. Now I also took the time to give you some introduction to the statement what we will be having. First of all, it's very important to recognize that it's a period, right? It's not just March, because they will see just March. It is from January 1st to March 31st, a quarter of the year. And that quarter, 25% is important for this document because we compare, in most cases, we compare the actual, right, the actual money that's coming in and money that's going out, revenue and
Mhm.
expenses, to the budgeted figures to see how it jives, how it moves. And we call it variance, of course, variance analysis. So if it's less than 25, it's more than 25, the numbers are there. Right? So 25% is very important. There's some notes that you can go over for a particular period. This is what I just mainly said. This statement is a managerial tool, and for correlative comparison. Those basically summarize what I just said. Now, this document, you can probably read this. Take your time and read this very slowly, so that when you're looking at the numbers, and let's be frank, let's be honest with ourselves. When you're reading the numbers, half of them would not be listening. You know what I'm saying? It will be. This is my experience. This sort of give them that context. Give them that where are you coming from? What are these pages all about? Right? So sometimes just giving them the verbiage, the language, sort of make it understandable, and they're prone to listen, basically. So the entire first page contains all NSNA's revenues, right? And it's very important, and maybe I keep saying it, money, it's revenues are monies coming in. But many times, even a very experienced treasurer would forget in the middle of the revenue, that first page, say, okay, yeah, so these are the expenses. No, 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 I'm sorry, but I hate to jump in. I really don't like to jump in when he or she is doing her presentation. But if you're saying at the first page, you're saying expenses, so no, 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 those are revenue, those are monies coming in. The rest of the document, 5 pages, are the expenses broken up. So you can see we spend a lot of time on expenses because that's what you need to keep to a minimum, right? It's
Mhm.
necessary evil, but we need to keep those to a minimum. Also, obviously, revenues are important, and we'll spend a lot of time this year looking at how we would improve, get back our membership numbers up. As I mentioned before, membership is 50% of our revenues, right? That's my
Right.
little spiel for that. But you could read that if you wish. My suggestion is to. Now, what I did on each of these, if you just take a course, I wouldn't have time to go over each one of these. But I kind of, each one of the important lines, I use selected line items, which I think is very important, significant to highlight. And the very first one is advertising imprint, or money that's coming in. Now the budget is 80,000 to be budget for the entire year of 2021, right? But as of March 31st, we only receive about 30,000, right? 29,280. You're seeing that very first figure here.
Mhm.
And that's, and I gave I gave the explanation over there. That's just January, February, March, right? That's two, and we have 3 issues to go, right? And beginning September of last year, we actually went completely online, electronic format. So there is no printing costs, there are no mailing. Those are very, very big expenses that we will be saving moving forward. Could be a future board would want to go back to print issue, but right now we're saving a lot of money there, and so on and so forth. Online advertisement. I had the explanation there. That's for weekly broadcast. You guys are sick of our weekly. No, I hope she's not hearing me. Uh, Sick of our weekly broadcast. You get so many of them, but it pays. It pays a lot of money. I'm joking around a lot. Okay, so don't mind me. So it's very important. It's one of the things that really took off. It was, you know what, a few years back, it was just $10,000 budgeted. Now we budget 100,000 for that. So it looks like monies is seeping away from hard imprint copy to our online advertisement, which includes our broadcast email. I highlighted the membership drop. I mentioned that already. That's the line, one of the lines I highlighted here that you could go over. And I'm suggesting you read all of these because I didn't highlight everything. You know, just the main ones. Uh, that also goes for the expenses. These are royalties. You see, I have my nice little arrow over here. They're not doing well, but we all always receive this $10,000 Walter Clore, which is in my notes, and that's $75,000. Remember, always keep it in the back of your mind. This first page are revenues, money's coming into us, right? Which is very good. So if we have, for example, if we have 37% of, like the very first item, budget variance, that's good, right? We are surpassing the budget in revenues, right? So always keep that in mind. But if we have 37% in expense, that's not good because we are surpassing our budget in expenses. You get the
Mhm.
idea?
Yeah.
Convention, virtual convention, these are budget numbers. Um, I will give you the final numbers for these, okay? Before the meeting, I wouldn't worry, but as of March 31st, remember this document is as of March 31st. And you know, you would have a tendency to forget that because you're now living in May, right? So this
Yeah.
is as of March 31st. But we do have final figures for the convention. Um, so we'll give those to you. And we have done pretty well comparatively to the budget. Compared to the budget, you can see right away the very first one, the exhibit, is 50%, is 111. I think that percentage is wrong. Wow, it's over 100. So I'm taking a different number. I just discovered that. You see that?
Yeah.
That 50% is wrong. That should be with 102% or something like that. Um,
So
this one also,
the formula and the line item
there,
must be
yeah,
wrong.
there's a hidden line there. Oh my God! So what I'll
Uh-huh.
do, I'll adjust it. Adjust it and send it back to you, so there will be no confusion. So before the board meets, right, and the finance committee meet, I will change this. I'm glad I saw this now, because there will be a big issue. But you understand what's going on. This so we actually the actual is over our budget on it. So that obviously this percentage is
Yeah.
wrong. So
Yeah.
don't get distracted. I will send you an adjusted document. Okay.
Okay.
Mid-year is always in November, so we don't have anything for that as yet. Now, it's very important for you to say the total revenue, which is 739, the total expenses, which are the following pages, right? Total expenses, these bottom few lines here is 579,502, and operating surplus. And that's sort of a meaningless number at this point, just 25% of the year, but it's full disclosure. This is where we are, 159,000, that will change. We have our investment gains. We put that apart from the regular operations, because that's not operations. Operations is only what management has control over, right? We don't have control over investment gains.
Mm-hmm.
That's 67,000. So if you add the 159 to 67, you get 226, which is the surplus deficit. So that's very important for the first page to highlight those. Now, it's very easy for me to go over next, because I only select a few of these for the expense page. And by the way, everything that you see here, all the pages, I didn't take away. This is the actual document you will see without the notes, right? You will see all these numbers would be
Right.
exactly the same. The only difference would be I will make sure that I have the right percentages. I'm so happy I caught that. Oh my God, that's so embarrassing. Anyway, yeah, and the reason for
That's
that,
why we do these things, right? So that we can
absolutely,
catch little
but
things or whatever.
that would not have happened though, and it's not an excuse. That we had the last year budget we will be somewhere in my explanation that is said that we the previous as of November, we are not sure if convention would have been live or virtual. So we created two budgets actually. So I know exactly what's happening there. I'm pulling from the previous budget, the one in which we had the live one, but it went virtual. So that's a two different numbers. So I just need to switch that formula around and give you
Okay.
a right before you start questioning my competency here.
No.
Yeah, I know exactly what happened there. I'm glad I caught it. So I'm not going to go over these. These are sort of self-explanatory. I just chose significant lines, and this is exactly what I suggest that you do, right? And you could mention to them,
Yep.
as you're doing it, if you have any questions for the ones that you're not covering, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
First of all, look at the line item description. Remember that document that they should have for what that line is. And then I could explain, because I will have the details of these, what makes up these figures, right? And so on and so forth. So we're just a few minutes away. This is now just this page. Now this page here has all the expenses, but then I just told you that we have 6 pages, right? Why the confusion? So what happened is that 4 of the pages, we just have the total. For example, look here, you see governance is highlighted.
Mm-hmm.
That's the detail of that is in the last page. We have convention, and we have mid-year. Those are broken out into the following pages, right? But
Mm-hmm.
this second page, so to speak, we just have all the expenses, but we just have one line item for those big categories. Make sense?
Yep.
Yeah, so that you will have a total expense here at the bottom. See that bottom 579, the actual
Mm-hmm.
579,502. If you go back to the top here, you can see that number up here, right? Total expenses 579,502, right?
Yep.
And then I had my little explanation. Now this third page is the convention expenses broken out, and I have explanations for these also. Um, AV equipment, you can see we have sponsored events, programs. You could take a look at what the meaning of those. we have the brochure. This one I'm going to just highlight a little bit. Now it's called brochure, but actually this year for the virtual convention, we printed what do you call it, postcards, right? And then
Mhm.
we weren't getting much sign up, right? So we printed a
Yeah.
lot of them. The printing cost wasn't that much, and the design wasn't that much, but the postage was incredible, as you would suspect. You know, we sent
Mm.
thousands of these things out, and so it went over budget, right? Essentially, and I explained that. And full disclosure, you could explain that to me.
Okay.
These other one, you could see AJJ Janetti and explain who they are. Management fee, I forgot to put an explanation there. That 28,000 is contractual. You see that management fee on the AJJ? That's a
Yeah.
contract. That's through contract. We pay them that.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I'm just curious. Do you see my cursor? No.
Yes.
Yeah, you do.
Yes, I can. Yeah.
Oh, that's good. So it will be good for when we do our shared screen for the meeting. I'll
Yeah,
just
I can
ask them
see
to
it.
look at the cursor because I will know exactly what you're discussing. And then this is a skip page, I guess. That's good. All right. So this is mid-year, nothing here, right? Mid-year is till November 2021, so nothing here.
Mhm.
That's easy for you. Then the last page would be the governance. Governance is essentially all expenses that pertains to the three board meetings that you'll be having. And if you in the past, you actually used to actually go to New York, and it cost. Look at those big numbers: 40,000, 50,000 to New York, 35,000 for mid-year. These are budgeted figures, but I'm sure we would be very, very, we would spend a lot of money. Maybe, hopefully, wrong way to say it, but mid-year we're hoping it's live, and we will have to book flights, so we will have incurring expenses on those lines.
So before the board meetings, we would fly to New York.
Oh yeah, absolutely. We book a
Oh,
hotel. I know. So that last year, yes, yeah. This year
that
board
sucks.
and
I've
last year
never
board, you
even been to
really
New
missed
York
out.
before.
Absolutely, you missed out. And I'm so sorry for last. Seriously, I'm so sorry for last year both Stacy and the rest of them, because they didn't go.
Yeah.
They didn't get the chance to come to New York. Because they come to New York and they stayed an entire week, free board, and they got to visit all the sites of New York on our office space, and then they go to mid-year. You fly them to whatever location. Last year, you're supposed to go to San Diego. You get a free flight to go to San Diego with a hotel room, and well, you that's close to your neighborhood, so I guess that's not. But you understand, East Coast people
Yeah.
would be very happy to go there, and absolutely, yeah. And that goes for the NEC also. You can see there NEC, resolution committee. They go to convention. They go to convention. So you're good
Wow.
so far. So what you can do is, to any question that come up for these two main documents. Remember, these are two main documents. You have some other documents that I'll be sending you eventually. I'll be resending you this document and replacing it the um, with the correct uh, budget variances. Um,
Okay.
so you think you're good so far, right? The notes are there. Any additional questions you have, feel free to email me. Right?
No, yeah, no, everything's laid out very nicely. Thank you.
Okay, Miss Chantel, thank you very much for your time. And tomorrow, if you have
Thank
any
you.
questions, I'll be looking forward for that. Also,
No,
hopefully tomorrow I will have a set time for the meeting. Okay, I think
okay.
it looks like it's going to be tentatively. That's what Diane came to show me. Tentatively, it will be the Thursday, right? The
Right.
Thursday. I'll send you an email, but right now you can. It's 4:45 to 6:30. Our time.
On what day?
That's the first day, which is Thursday, right? Thursday.
Thursday. What's the date though?
What date did you give me? May 27th.
May 27. Okay.
Yeah, you give
I
me.
just I have so many meetings in my thing. I'm starting to get confused which one is which.
Uh, well, these are the two times that you gave me. Remember, you gave me two times,
Right.
two dates. So this is the first date. The Because the second day, as
Okay.
I mentioned, Diane, she's taking her shot, so she doesn't want to.
Yeah, because I see we have a NSNA on the 24th and an NSNA on the 26th, and then the 27th is going to be our finance committee.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, that's you. That's you.
So 24, 26, 27.
Yeah,
Okay.
I know, and you don't get the benefit of coming to New York. Typically, you would have. Sorry to repeat that little morsel, but yeah, you would have been in New York and then having a valuable
Yeah.
time.
No, no, no. It's totally fine. Okay.
All right, you
That
take
works
care now.
out good too
Yeah,
because I have class until 12, so that's good that it's going to be in the afternoon.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
went we went to the time that you gave me.
Yeah.
We did
Awesome.
not
Thank you so
time
much.
rage on that particular day.
Right.
All right,
Okay.
so
Thank
that's
you
it.
so
I'm
much.
gonna end the meeting and try to stop the recording. Uh, stop recording. Uh,